Alright guys, chapter 14, the poor dolly is crying. Well, what do you think? Aunt Claire stood with Amy, Luann, and Ellen in front of the porch as the Sells car pulled away. They waved and shouted goodnights until the taillights blinked out of the sight. Around the curve of the stillness of the country night settled around them. A terrific party, Amy said. It was really wonderful, Miss Traylor, Ellen exclaimed. After all, it had my two favorite things in the world, caramel corn and pizza. We had a great time. Was it all you wanted to be, Amy? Asked Aunt Claire as if they turned back to the house. Aunt Claire glanced at Luann, who held a paper napkin filled with the last of the caramel corn. It was perfect, Amy assured her, except for those uncomfortable minutes in the attic. She loved the party. Having Luann there hadn't made a difference at all. Kathy had treated her the way she treated everyone else, and the other girls had followed suit. Aunt Claire had helped too by keeping Luann busy when she threatened to take over the conversation and by giving an occasional signal for her to calm down. When the last dishes were stacked in the sink, Ellen yawned and stretched. I'm really sleepy all of a sudden, she said. I'm going to bed and dream about the blonde man coming into my life. Maybe it won't be the paper boy after all. What's wrong with the paper boy? Amy demanded. She yawned and yawned too. He's 10 years old. The girls went upstairs giggling while Aunt Claire lingered behind to check the doors and turned off the lights. You get up when you want to, she called after them. You know where the breakfast things are, Amy. I'm not going to be in any great hurry to get moving tomorrow. Amy felt as if she might fall asleep on her feet. She undressed quickly, called a last good night to Ellen, was dozing when Luann returned from the bedroom and climbed into the other side of the bed. Good night, Amy. Good night. I like Kathy. She's my friend. She's going to take me to the museum sometime. Amy burrowed into her pillow. I can take you to the museum. I didn't know you wanted to go. Neither did I. Luann's voice started to fade. Kathy says they have dolls in the museum and dollhouses. I love dollhouses. She was asleep, her breathing deep and regular. Amy closed her eyes and tried to match her breathing to Luann's. I'll take her to the library, she thought. We can look for books about dollhouses. And then she was asleep too. The grandfather clock downstairs was striking 2 when Amy woke up. Moonlight flooded the room, as it had last Wednesday night when Aunt Claire had come to talk and had scared Amy half to death. What had awakened her this time? She sat up and stared at the door, expecting to see the knob turn again. After a breathless moment, she turned to see Luann was awake too and discovered that the other half of the bed was empty. Luann was gone. Amy slid out of bed and listened. If Luann had gone down the hall to the bathroom, there was no point in following her and starting a conversation that would waken Ellen and Aunt Claire, but there was no sound of returning footsteps, and when Amy opened the door, the hall was dark, and so was the bathroom. She went to the top of the stairs. Could Luann have gone downstairs for a drink of water? She should have wakened me, Amy thought crossly. I told her that she should tell me if she had to get up. A sound like a sigh made her whirl and look down the shadowy hallway. The attic door was open, only an inch or two, but Amy stared. She thought it opened further, and she knew then, without a doubt, where her sister had gone. Darn! Luann had awakened and decided to take another look at the dollhouse. In the middle of the night, she knew very well that Amy would have stopped her, so she had sneaked away by herself. There was nothing to do but go to the attic after her. If Aunt Claire had awoke and heard someone moving around up there, she'd be frightened and angry. Amy had to get Luann back to bed without making a sound. She tiptoed down the hall and slipped through the attic door. Moonlight was the silvery tunnel of the stairwell. If she was lucky, she was going to bring Luann back downstairs without switching on the light. If I'm lucky, she repeated to herself, if Luann doesn't see something that sent her into hysterics, and if I don't have hysterics myself. Halfway up the steps, Amy began to feel as if she was reliving the nightmare to visit the attic 24 hours ago. There were the same noises, small scratchy sounds, and a little like a mouse might make, but not a mouse. Before she reached the top step, she saw that the house was open. The parlor was glowing eerily. In front of the house, Luann knelt, staring at the rapt attention into a lighted room. Amy fought down the urge to run. She couldn't go without Luann. On tiptoe, she crossed the attic to her sister's side. Oh, turned an extra page. Luann looked up. Look at the dolly, she said in a voice that was much softer than usual. Amy looked without wanting to. Her grandmother doll still stood in front of the bookcase. But now the blue-clad arm was raised, and as Amy stared, a tiny book fell from the shelf, and then another, and then simply slid off the shelves and laid scattered at the doll's feet. Books fall, Luann murmured. The poor dolly is crying. Amy gasped. A muted weeping had begun, a sound in despairing that had made her want to cry herself. That's not the doll crying, Amy whispered hoarsely. Don't be silly. But sobs were coming from the dollhouse parlor. Luann, get up! Amy couldn't fight back the panic any longer. She tried to drag Luann to her feet. We have to get out of here. Listen to the poor dolly, Amy. Why is she crying? I don't know. Amy almost forgot to whisper. Clearly, Luann wasn't frightened at all. She rocked back in her heels as if she was watching a show and enjoying it. Perhaps that is what this was to her, a show, like a puppet show at the mall. No more frightening, no more magical than that, and just fascinating. The light in the parlor began to fade. The sobbing stopped. Getting dark now, Luann said. Why, Amy? I said, I don't know. I don't know anything. This time, Amy succeeded in getting Luann to her feet. Walk on tiptoe, she ordered. Aunt Claire will be mad if she finds you out you came up here. Looking only slightly worried, Luann started toward the stairs. Amy lingered a moment in front of the dark and silent house. Her heart pounded. The house was telling her something. In spite of her terror, she knew that. But what is it? Would she ever know? With trembling fingers, she closed and covered the house. I'll try to figure it out, she whispered, and turned to follow Luann. From behind her in the house came the tiniest sighs. All right, guys, what do you think she's trying to figure? What do you think that dollhouse is trying to tell Amy?